Hello, my friends. Today I want to talk about something that many people come to me complaining about, and certainly I've had a similar experience in my life, and that is when you recognize there's something that you don't like, you really don't like it. Could be in a relationship, could be a situation, it could be something in your own body, it could be all sorts of things. And you've really been struggling with this. In fact, you're kind of stuck because you've probably tried many things and you just can't seem to get rid of it. Well, I wanted to share with you a verse in the Tao, which I think offers us a different possibility than just trying to wrestle something and chuck it out the window. Because whenever we are resisting something and strongly resisting something, we're setting up a conflict within ourselves where instead of kind of easing something along, we're like this. So listen to this verse. And this is from the Stephen Mitchell translation of the Tao Te Ching, which I've worked with for many years. Verse 36, if you want to shrink something, you must first allow it to expand. Now that's a potent line. And so different than what we think. We think we want to get rid of something. We want to just, again, have it disappear. But this says if you want to shrink something, if you want to diminish something that is an experience in your life right now, you must first allow it to expand. So rather than resisting, rather than pushing away, bad mouthing, whatever it might be, you must first allow it to expand. So what does that mean, to allow something to expand? Well, it means we don't resist it. And in fact, we get to know it very intimately. We get to really explore what is it that I am believing that's creating this situation in my life. Because until we begin to uncover the what has attracted it to us, we're not going to be able to shift so that it can be shrunk. So allowing something to expand, the first thing to do is to stop resisting it, to stop getting all worked up about it, and instead to become very still. In fact, let's do that together right now. Just close your eyes. Now, there may be something in your life right now that you would like to shrink, or maybe you're in a pretty good space. There's nothing glaringly wrong. Either way, it's fine. But probably all of us can come up with some little irritation that if we could, we would like it to shrink. So with your eyes closed, just bring that, whatever it might be, into your mind's eye. If it's a relationship, if it's a situation, if it's the neighbor across the street who puts his garbage in the wrong place and the dogs get into it, whatever it might be, just bring that to your mind's eye and begin to notice what happens in your body, what happens in your emotional flavor, what your thoughts start to say. You may notice there's a whole chain of reaction that happens inside you when you contemplate this situation. So now, rather than running away from any of those aspects, from any of that reactive cycle within you, see if you can, almost like you're an eagle on the top of a tree and you're looking down at yourself. Now, an eagle at the top of a tree has a very different perspective than an ant on the ground, or even a human on the ground. The eagle has a much broader perspective. So begin to get a sense of a larger perspective about this situation, because often we are so up front and center. The tree is just right in front of our nose. And it's only when we begin to step back a little bit that we can begin to see other aspects that we hadn't been aware of before. We're literally allowing the whatever it might be to expand. We're seeing nuances we hadn't seen before. We're noticing things about the relationship, the other person, ourselves in relation to it. And try not to be too judgmental, whether it's about yourself or about whatever is happening in the situation. Try to be very neutral in your observation. And you might want to take a couple of deep breaths. Because even contemplating a situation that is problematic is going to create, again, this reactive cycle in your body, in your psyche, in your mind. And you want to step back from those thoughts. You want to step back from all this cycle of reactivity. And so just taking some deeper breaths can help you get that broader perspective. And then just begin to take a look. If you want to shrink something, you must first allow it to expand. Notice if there's something that perhaps you haven't been, well, let's say that maybe there's something you've been doing that has been holding this in place, that has been keeping it from being able to shift naturally. Perhaps you've just dug yourself so deeply into the problem that you haven't been able to get a bit of distance. Sometimes we just have to sit. We just have to literally close our eyes and get that more expansive perspective. So that instead of wanting to shrink something, like really wanting to, like almost being willing to go into battle to shrink it, we allow it to expand in our understanding. We find new aspects that we hadn't found before, and we begin to see our part in it more clearly. How we have been holding this situation in this kind of stalemate. And once we begin to see our part, we can start to own it. Gosh, I never realized before how I was, whatever it might be, how I have been instrumental in keeping this dynamic going in my life. So if you like, you can open your eyes now. I'm opening mine. But you get a sense of how so often when we have a problem, we are so fixated upon it. And literally, it's like in the forest, your nose is right up against that tree, so you really can't see the whole picture. But if you want to shrink something, you must first allow it to expand. We have to expand our vision of it. We have to expand not just our vision, but our perspective of it. And we have to notice what we are doing that is keeping it in that energy, in that dynamic. And once we begin to notice our part in it, then we can begin to change our part. And it's a funny thing, because when we begin to change our understanding of something, when we begin to get a broader perspective, maybe soften a little bit here or there, And if we don't, because we can get pretty righteous, if we stay on that in that righteous state, then we're still stuck. But if we begin to get that higher perspective, step back from the tree so we get to see the forest a little more fully, then we actually have the opportunity to make some different choices for ourselves in relationship to the problem, whatever it might be. And when we do that, things will just naturally shift. But we have to be willing to own our part. And first we have to see it. If you want to shrink something, you must first allow it to expand. So have fun with that. And it doesn't have to be serious, although it can feel very serious. You can bring a more lighthearted approach to it and just see what happens. Thanks very much, and I'll see you later.